Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 8 of my Android development tutorial. If you haven't seen the previous parts, 6 and 7, there's a link in the upper right hand corner so you can do so. Otherwise, you may be quite confused, and in this part of the tutorial, I'm going to continue working on my XML parsing multiple activity stock quote picker, and I'm going to focus in on showing you how to parse XML the traditional way using the DOM. In the next part of the tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do the same exact thing using XML pool parser. So I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Okay, so if you don't remember previously, I'm going to be pulling all of this information from a Yahoo web service. And it's available at developer.yahoo.com/YQL/console. And basically what you need to do to get this stock information, and there's a ton of other information you can get, is to go to this website and click on Show Community Tables first. And then what we're going to do is cycle through all of these different sources that are available to us until we find Yahoo. So this is very useful in doing just about anything you'd ever want to do with a web service. I'm going to click on Yahoo, and then I'm going to come down through here until I find quote. Click on that, back up here, come over here, click on diagnostic, shut that off, and let's just get information on one stock being Microsoft. Got that? Hit test. And this is going to be all of the information that I'm going to want to pull from this web service. And I'm specifically going to come in here and get change, days low, days high, year low, year high, name of course, last trade price only, and then finally days range. So what I'm going to need to do is to bounce back over into Eclipse. And the first thing I'm going to do is just to get this out of the way, I'm going to come in here, and this is where all of our data for our stocks is going to be saved. So I'm going to, for all those different things I pointed out, go days low and give it an empty shell. And I am going to need 7 of these guys. And we're also going to have days high, of course. So I'm just copying everything from there. Year low, year high, and all of the code is available in the link in the description, and the whole entire package is available there as well. Name, last trade price only, change, and I forgot one, we're also going to have days range. So those are all going to be saved inside of there. Now instead of going in here and creating constructors, I'm just going to right click inside of here and come down here where it says source, come over here, and then go generate getters and setters, just click on that. Then this is going to open, and I'm going to select all these different guys here. Come down inside of here, click OK, and those are all my getters and setters all set up for me. And then I'm also going to create a constructor in the same way. Come down here, go source, and then generate constructor using fields. And then just make sure all of these guys are selected. Come out of there and hit OK. So there's our constructor, and there are all of our different getters and our setters. So that is all we're going to need to do with that. Actually, we're not even going to use the setters, but I'm just going to leave them in there anyway. And we're going to save that inside of stockinfo.java. And of course, stockinfo.java is in the source folder. And that is all we're going to have to do with that, so we can just close it, and then file save it. Now, rather than forcing you to go through and come in here and create all of these text view areas, which is all they are, I'm just going to select one right here, come over here, because I've shown you how to set up these layouts numerous different times. You can see year low text view. I just went ahead and created all these ahead of time. And basically what we're going to do is we are just going to output the information that we parse from that XML web service and stick it next to all of these text views. And everything is very, very, very simple. I'll just bounce down here for a second into the XML file itself. And you can see I just have a whole bunch of table rows, match parent, just like I did before for all the other table rows. Inside of the text view area here, we have the name of the stock table row again, match parent. Come down here to make sure that it fills up all the space that I want it to. Whenever I have 2 text views, I'm going to assign layout weight 1 for the first one, and then I'm going to assign layout weight 1 for the second one as well. And that is all that I really need to do with activity stock info.xml. And of course, that guy is saved down here inside of the layout folder, activity stock info.xml. And of course, that's in the resources folder, as you can see right there. So that's all done. So I'm not going to make you sit through that. And that finally is going to bring us to stock info activity. And this is going to handle the activity that we created and go and parse XML data and do a ton of different things. Now, the very first thing I'm going to do, I'm not sure if I showed you this before, there's a thing called logcat, and it's basically going to allow you to monitor all kinds of different things as your application is being run. And if we ever want to send any type of messages inside of here to debug this or see if things are working properly, what is common to do is to identify your application inside a Logcat so that it's going to be able to output messages and so forth and so on. And how you do that is go private, static, final, string, tag is equal to, and I'm going to go stock quote, which is the name of the class. So that's what that's for. It's just to help me know that the message is coming from my application. And this is very common to do. Well, then what I want to do is come in here and define all my text views that I created before. So I'm going to have company, name, text view, and go and get the libraries as they ask for them, of course, like that. And then I'm going to create a whole bunch of these different guys. And I know from last time that we have 8 of them. And then just go year low, text view. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. I do my best to answer all of them. And then we're going to have days low, text view. And we're going to need these because we're going to be changing them as the application is running, putting all of our stock information in there. Days high, text view. Last trade, price only, text view. Change, text view. Days range, text view. There we go. So I have all my text views all defined inside of there, so I'll be able to refer to them later on. Another thing I'm going to want to do is save all of my node keys. And here I'm going to go quote, which is going to be the parent node for my XML data. As you can see here, if I zoom in, quote. See, there's quote. So that's where that's coming from. And that's going to be a string, of course. And now I'm going to need 9 of those. And we're going to have key name. I'm just going to put name inside of here. Year low, year high, days low, days high, last trade price, change, and then finally days range. And that'll allow me to save all that information if the application closes or what have you. And then I'm basically going to do just about the same exact thing again. Here I'm going to put in all of the XML data that I'm going to need. And a lot of this information I'm just throwing in here just in case I need it. So just replace text view with string like that. And then I'm just going to replace text view again by assigning this default value to each of the variables. So pretty simple stuff. Okay, so now I have all those strings set up to represent the nodes as well. Well, then what I'm going to do is go back into Yahoo, and you're going to see here, way down here where it says the REST query. This is going to be the URL that I'm going to call whenever I want to get this XML file. And as you look at this guy, you're going to see eventually MSFT right here. So what I'm going to want to do is I want to take this beginning part of this URL and save it, then take the symbol, put it in the middle, and then paste this ending part of the URL. And that is how I'm going to get the XML data. So I'm just going to copy that, bounce back inside of here. And there is an error inside of Eclipse or inside of the Google plugin that won't allow me to do this inside of the strings.xml file, which is normally where you would do this. So in this situation, I just have to paste the URL directly inside of here. And I'm just going to call this string Yahoo URL. Like I said, if I could, I would put it in strings.xml, but I can't because of the goofy error. Okay, so I'm going to paste all that in there, right up until MSFT, which is the Microsoft stock symbol. I'm actually going to go and I'm going to copy this or cut it, and then come down to the end and make sure we get rid of MSFT, just like we did right there, and put a semicolon. And then after that, I'm going to come in again and go string Yahoo URL second is equal to, and paste in the rest of that URL after that and put a semicolon. So that's where all that information is coming from. Okay, so now that I have all of that set up, I'm going to need to come in here and create on create. So how we're going to do that is come up here and I'm going to go extends activity like that, file save it. Okay, now after I have that all set up, I'm going to come down here inside of this guy and create my on create method, which is going to be called as soon as the activity is started. On create bundle saved instance state. This is going to be all of the values that I'm going to want to save. If the activity should be shut down, that's where all that comes from, or that's what that stands for. Then I'm going to go super on create, and inside of that, saved instance state, just as it did right there. Then I'm going to call set content view or layout activity. And what this guy's doing is it's going to create the window that is going to be used by the UI, and stock info is the guy that we're going to create inside of this. And of course, you know where that comes from. Then what I'm going to do is call for the intent that actually called for this to be created and get the stock symbol that was entered inside of that. And what I mean by that, let's just go grab this library here while we're here. If we come back over into main activity, and let's just come up here, copy stock info activity, right like that, and then go into main activity and do an F and paste stock info inside of there and do a find. You're going to see this, see, intent, and there is stock info activity. That is when our class is going to be called. And the information that's going to be passed to our new activity is going to be the stock symbol that we need to look up. So that's what that all means. So come on back down inside of here. And then we're going to go string and get our stock symbol that we're looking for so that we can properly call it up inside of Yahoo. Get string extra, and we're then going to go main activity dot stock symbol. And just to make sure you're aware, main activity, bounce inside of there. Here's main activity, stock symbol. See? That's how we're able to pass that information. So back into stock info activity, .java again, bounce inside of this. Now I want to come in and actually initialize all of my different text views. So just to save some time, I'm going to come up here and copy all these guys. File save, I'm going to bounce over here as well and grab the initialization information so that I can just do that real easily. Bounce back in there, except this is going to be text view, right like that. And delete that, put a dot inside of there, and then go company name text view. That's pretty easy. Copy that, paste this inside. And then we're just going to come in and do exactly the same thing. Dot, look for year low, text view, come in here, dot, this is going to be year high, I'm guessing. Yes, days low, days high, days low, days high. Last trade price, change, last trade price, there we go. And then this one's going to be change. And then days range finally, days range. And there we go. And that's all set up. So those are all initialized. So we just keep on moving on. Now remember I said up here I was going to use tag to send information to the logcat if I would want to. Well, one thing that we could do just to check or to state where we are in our program during execution. Well, here we're going to go tag. And let's say that I'd want to do something like before URL creation. And then also let's say that I would want to monitor that the stock symbol got inside of here. Well, that's how I would do that. So that's going to output on the screen. So that's how you do that. Of course, need to import that library. Then what I need to do is go and actually build the URL for the Yahoo web service that is going to give me my XML file. And to do that, it's going to be Yahoo URL first plus, and then it's going to be stock symbol, and then Yahoo URL second. And I'm sure you remember whenever we created all that, so I don't need to look up there. And there we are. Now we have the URL that we're going to be looking up and parsing data from. And now we get to something a little bit jazzy. Now the Android toolkit is not thread safe. And what that means is whenever you are going to be going and using network information or so forth and so on, you are going to have to do this in an outside thread and then use a very special method inside of this class we're going to create here in a second to actually write information to the UI. And it's very important to understand that if you ever want to do any type of network operation, for example, such as grabbing XML data, you're going to have to do it in its own thread. And how we're going to call it is by going new, my async task, and then calling execute on it. That is going to start this guy. But now I'm going to have to actually come in here and create it. And async task. There we go. Now I got it right. And now what the async task is going to allow us to do is perform background tasks such as using or parsing XML. But what it's also going to allow us to do is go and actually change GUI components inside of our application. And this is probably the easiest way to both go out and use network operations or grab information off the web and at the same time be able to go in and change the GUI interface. Like, this is kind of the common way to do this. And so we're going to have to set up this class. So it's going to be private class, my async task extends async task. And right here what we're going to be doing is just pulling in default information. And then what I need to do is actually create the method that is going to allow me, actually I'm not even going to create it, I'm going to have Clips create it, async task, well, import that, file save, and then I'm going to come in here and say add unimplemented methods. Okay, and only do in background is going to pop up. We actually are going to need another one that's going to actually write to the GUI interface. And inside of here, we're going to define everything we need to parse our XML data. And just if you're wondering, string ... arg0, that is the same as if we would go string args. So it's the same exact thing. So that this guy and string with the array args, they are both the same thing. It's just a string array. It's nothing that complicated. Now, since we're going to be doing something that could cause a lot of errors, we have to, of course, put this inside of a try block. And the very first thing we're going to do is go and get the XML URL that was passed into us whenever this guy was started. And to do so, you're going to go new URL. And where was it passed in? It was passed in this guy right here. So that's where that's coming from. So to get access to it, you just go args0. Since there was only one thing passed in there, then that's how that works. And I prefer putting args inside of there. It just makes more sense to me. Then we're going to have to create a connection between both the application and the URL that we're going to read our information from. So we're going to go URL connection, and I'm just going to call this connection, and then I'm going to connect the two of these guys by going connection is equal to URL open connection, and there we go. Then we're going to go HTTP URL connection, and what this guy is going to do for us is it's going to allow us to take advantage of HTTP specific features, and it's going to also provide us a bunch of tools to tell us if the connection was made or if it was lost. And in other words, it's just going to send us back HTTP status codes so that we know what's going on. And I'm going to go connection. You're actually going to see I'm going to check for one of these guys in a second. Here I'm going to do a cast for connection and then grab libraries. And then what I'm going to do is ask this guy if we were able to properly connect with a URL. And to do that, I'm going to go int response code is equal to HTTP connection and go get response code. And that's going to tell me if we were able to connect properly or not. Now that I have that information, I can say if response code is equal to, copy this guy up here, paste it inside of there, and then go dot, and I'm going to look for HTTP OK, which means we properly connected. Well, if we have a proper connection inside of there, and make sure we spell response right, well then I'm going to start reading the information from our connection. And I'm going to go input stream is equal to, and I'm going to be able to come up here, grab this guy, paste that in, and go get input stream. And then, now that I have all this input, I'm going to go document. And like I said before, in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use the XML pool parser. But for now, we're just going to use the simple way, using the DOM. And what this builder is going to do for me is provide a simple way for me to parse DOM objects from the XML document. Paste that in there, and go new instance. And then create a document builder, which is going to provide a DOM document from the XML page. And to get that, I'm going to go dbf new document builder, right like that. And then I'm going to go document DOM. And this is actually going to parse the Yahoo Financial YQL stock XML file and go in. And now what I want to do is actually define the root element that's going to be inside of this document. I'm going to go dom.get document element. Is that right? Yeah. And that's going to provide me with the root. And make sure when you come in here and go element that you come down here and go w3c dom. That's the right one. And then if I want to get a list of nodes from this document, I'm just going to go doc l get elements by tag name. And this is going to be quote, because quote revolves around all of the different information that I want to get out of that XML file. Now the very first thing I want to do now, just as a check, is to make sure that I actually was able to find the quote tag. And just so you're aware, this is the quote tag that I'm looking for. And there's always a quote tag assigned for every stock that you look up. So now I want to make sure that I found that. And I want to get the length to make sure that there's actual data coming across here. And if that was true, just to show you here, just in case there are multiple quotes you would want to do all at the same time, I'm actually not using that here, but this isn't going to hurt anything to show you this, because of course it would be common for you to do that. If you wanted to cycle through all of the different nodes for multiple different quotes, you would just do this. Like I said, it doesn't hurt anything to have it in there. Then what I want to do is create stock info, which is the object that's going to hold all of our stock data for us. This guy, remember we created that right at the very beginning of the tutorial. So I'm going to create stock info, and I'm just going to call this the stock is equal to, and then I'm going to go get stock information, which is a guy I'm going to create here in a second, and then pass in doc l, which is going to be the root for our document. And then what I'm going to do, just to save a little bit of time right here, right before I create this, is zoom up inside of here. And I'm just going to copy these strings and then zoom back down inside of here. And right after this, and then I'm going to go the stock dot and go get name. So I'm going to pull that out of there. Like I said, in a second I'm going to create get stock information. I just wanted to get this out of the way because I'm almost done with this. And then we're going to do basically the same thing. And here I can just go dot year low, dot year high, dot days low. Where is it? There it is, days low, dot days high, last trade price only, dot get last trade price only, which is this guy, get the change, and then get the range, days range. There we go. So I'm going to get all that information out of our object. And that is all I'm going to need to do for that part of that class. I'm going to let this be exactly the same, but I have to come in here and actually create all my catch responses. So what we're going to do first is come down here. It's going to say that we need a finally defined inside of it. Now I'm just going to go finally like that. And then I'm going to go and catch all of the potential problems. And I'm just going to paste those in there. And there we go. So those are all set up. And that whole entire class is all set up. Now what I'm going to do is create get stock information. So come way down here. And what this guy's going to do is be sent the root XML tag, just like we said before, as well as the tag name we are going to be searching for is then going to be sent to another method called get text value for processing. And then we're going to use all that information to populate the stock info object. Here, just watch. You will see. So we're going to go private, and we're going to return a finished stock info object. Paste that inside of there. And remember I said the root element is going to be passed in, so there that is. And then I'm also going to have all this information be pulled from another method. So in that one I'm just going to pass in again the root element and name for all the different pieces of data that I'm going to want to grab. So there is year low, year high. As you can see, you're doing pretty much the same sort of things over and over again. Days low, days high, last trade price only, and days range. And then we're just going to copy and paste all of those things on the left side of the screen over onto the right side of the screen, because this is the data I'm trying to pull from the XML file. And there you go. So that's all set up. And then after we have all those set up, I have to actually create stock info. Just going to call this the stock equal to new stock info. And then inside of all these guys, I'll make sure we come up here and go stock year high. Sorry about that. There we go. Bounce over into this guy, and here are all the different things we're going to need for the constructor whenever we call it. Bounce back over, cut the strings out of this constructor call, and then I'm just going to uppercase all these. Days, there we go. Year, name, last, trade price only. Make sure that's uppercase because that is. Change and days range. And then we're going to go and throw stock on the front of all these. And file save that. And now that that stock info object has been created, I can go return the stock, send it back to it, and that'll be done with that. And now what I need to do is create get text value. So come after this and go private string get text value. It's going to receive the root element as well as the tag name that I want to search for inside of the XML document. So I'm going to go tag value to return. This is going to be the actual value between the tags we're searching for. And then I'm going to have to create a new node list using entry as the root and go get elements by tag name and put the tag name inside of there. There's only going to be one. Then we're going to say if node list, we want to make sure that we actually got a hit, is not equal to null, and the node list, make sure that the length of this guy is greater than 0, just like we did before. Then we're going to go element, have to cast this element, and then we're just going to go node list item 0 because we know there's only going to be one, and then we're going to go tag value to return to get that value. We just need to go element get first child like that, and then go get node value, and that's going to give us the value inside of there. And of course put an equal sign there. And now that we have the value that's inside of the tag that was sent over here that had the root element here, bounce down after this and go return tag value to return. There we go. We properly parsed and grabbed the values that we were looking for. So the only thing we have left to do is to take all that data that was in that stock object that we created here remember, get text value. That's calling this method here, which is going to find the specific tag name, return the value. Then it's going to pop up here and create this stock object. But I need to then take that stock object and actually save it to the GUI interface. And to do that, what we're going to do is actually to go, I'm going to keep this all in one place. Remember here where we created do in background, and remember I said that this is going to allow us to access network information. However, we're not going to be able to write to the GUI interface. Well, to write to the GUI interface, we're actually going to have to create another method inside of this. I'm actually going to bounce here and put it right here. And that method is going to be called onPostExecute. And to create it, you're going to go protected. This basically means after the above has been executed, this is going to be executed. And here, I'm going to put result. And then what I'm going to do is go company name, text view, set text, and going to put name inside of it. And I'm going to do that for every one of these different GUI pieces inside of this guy. So there's year low, and in this situation I'm going to need to put in the part of the GUI interface that is already there for the text view, right like that. Year high, days low, days high, and there are the rest of them. And that is it. That is all the information. So now let's execute it and watch it work. And here is our application. And if we hit quote, it's going to pop up all of our information. So there is an absolute ton of information on how to parse XML. If you stick with this, guys, I'm going to show you so many apps and so many different ways to do this stuff and provide an immense amount of repetition that it's just going to get ingrained in your brain. Next time, I'm going to show you how to use the XML pull parser. Please leave any questions or comments below. Otherwise, till next time.